This is a WUFT News special report on Hurricane Irma. I'm Nicolette Perdomo.
And I'm Jenna Cisneros. Irma is still threatening to run the state from Marathon to Micanopy before losing hurricane strength. First, we check in with UF forecaster Lee Southwick, who's in the Weather Center with the latest models on when the high winds may reach north central Florida. Lee?
The winds could reach us as early as Sunday morning, so that's when you need to be done preparing for this storm. Look at this. This is a monster. We just got the 5 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Winds still at 150 miles per hour, the pressure at 925, and it is slowing down slowly. Motion now at 12 miles per hour as opposed to 15 or 16 that we've been seeing. So it's still a Category 4, and check this out. It is expected to strengthen to a Category 5 hurricane now before making landfall in South Florida. Sustained winds at 160 miles per hour. Then this hurricane could track up the coast, up the peninsula of Florida. This track has shifted slightly to the west, so still a trend moving west, but it could cross across Florida, and by the time it reaches the Florida-Georgia border, be a tropical depression at 60 miles per hour. But here in north central Florida, we could still be dealing with a Category 1 hurricane. So it is time to prepare. You'll need to finish this preparation soon. I'll get to that in just a second. But first, here's a look at our models. Again, all agreeing that this hurricane can make landfall somewhere in South Florida. If you have family down there, make sure they are prepared if they did not evacuate. And here's why it could strengthen. First of all, it's going to pass over very warm water. That's going to fuel the hurricane, and also upper level winds. That wind shear is favorable for development. So again, it could strengthen to a Category 5 hurricane before making landfall. Hurricane warnings in effect for South Florida. Hurricane watches in effect all the way up towards Orlando and Tampa and Melbourne, Fort Myers. And we also have storm surge watches and warnings. Storm surge warning for Southwest Florida. And this storm could make landfall at high tide. That makes storm surge very dangerous. And again, storm surge watches up near Orlando as well. And these winds again are expected to, we could see some strong winds as early as Sunday morning. So make sure your preparations are done by then. Back to you.
Thanks, Lee. North Florida still has another day to prepare, but in South Florida, time is running out.
NBC's Jay Gray just filed this overview from Miami.
It is moving day in Miami and across Florida.
Today is the day to do the right thing for your family and get inland to safety.
Millions are in the path of Irma, a storm so massive it could literally swallow the entire state.
This storm is wider than our entire state and is expected to cause major and life-threatening impacts from coast to coast.
So from coast to coast, residents are preparing as best they can. Lines stretch around home improvement stores, which are quickly running short of supplies. The same is true at gas stations and grocery stores across the state. As residents board up and load up what they can in a scramble to get to safety. Lines gathered outside of this shelter before it even opened. While for those already inside other facilities, there's a growing fear.
What's the most scary is what are we going to go back to?
It's a valid concern when you see the fury already unleashed by Irma in the islands. Devastation that fuels a sense of urgency for so many now in the storm's path.
You got to be ready. It's the price you pay for living in Florida.
But the time to prepare is quickly running out, with Irma closing in on the coast. Jay Gray, NBC News, Miami.
While many Floridians are driving north to get farther away from Irma, one UF research team is heading south to make a closer study of the storm's power. The team of 15 engineers are driving to Naples to study how buildings react to forceful winds. The engineers will deploy weather stations designed to survive winds up to 200 miles per hour to study how the storm behaves at ground level. The team leader has done this more than 24 times, and he counts on good planning and preparation to provide safety.
Well, it would worry me if we didn't have the type of analytics at hand that we have. So we know exactly what the storm structure track looked like. So we have very good information. We can get in there, safely collect data, and get back out.
Tonight, the team will determine its next destination based on the storm's track.
The flood of people headed north is contributing to the gas shortages from Orlando to Lake City. Many Gainesville stations that ran out yesterday were working off a fresh supply this morning, leading to long lines at the pump. The governor ordered highway patrol escorts for fuel trucks in a move to speed up the distribution.
Shelters in Alachua and Marion counties open today. Officials are urging people in mobile homes to arrange shelters with friends and family or plan to move to a public shelter. Many shelters are at schools, but WUFT's Morgan Reiner showed us an even bigger one in Alachua County.
Many residents are driving north to avoid Hurricane Irma. But for those who choose to stay, many facilities like this one right behind me are opening up so that citizens can seek shelter.
The Easton Newberry Sports Center opened up at 10 a.m. this morning for the general population. And while they have some snacks and water, residents are urged to bring their own as well.
They should bring blankets. They should bring food, like whatever food. If there's a woman with a baby, she should bring Pampers. If there's younger children, if they feel like they more or less, want something to entertain them, to keep them occupied, they should do that.
The facility can hold 700 to 800 people comfortably. Animals are also welcome. They will have a cage, food, and water.
The animals will be vaccinated upon intake, just for the safety of the citizens and for the animals. And they'll be kept here as long as individuals need to stay here.
Since schools are out, those deputies will be providing security at shelters.
Our goal is just to make sure that anybody's here, whether they be a shelter person or an evacuee, that they have any needs that they can help with through the shelter staff, and just make sure they're in a safe environment.
The senior center on the north side of Gainesville also opened this morning as a special needs shelter.
Hearing about that monster of a hurricane that's coming through, I thought I probably needed a little more help.
James Jeter says he didn't get to be 81 years old by risking it.
I got to be this far by dodging storms. And if you dodge storms enough, you'll live a little while.
The shelter can't technically keep anyone from leaving, but they advise that you don't leave until they give the all clear when the storm is over and the roads and the signs are back to working. For WUFT News, I'm Morgan Reiner.
Your county emergency officials can steer you toward a shelter. In Alachua County alone, there are several, including Alachua Elementary, Kanapaha Middle, Meadowbrook Elementary, and Santa Fe High School. Those with special needs should go to the Senior Center, and those with pets should go to the Easton Newberry Sports Complex.
Some shelter animals are still searching for foster homes as Hurricane Irma approaches Florida, but some are taking a road trip north. Here's WUFT's Grace King with more.
On most days at Gainesville Pet Rescue, it's hard to hear, but for the first time in months, it's quiet. 4 volunteers from the League for Animal Welfare in Cincinnati drove more than 800 miles to Gainesville, helping clear out shelters before the storm.
We're trying to open space here so that when the Miami orphans come north, they have a place to go.
Bruce Walters says the trip was a last-minute idea, but he's glad to be helping.
On the road down here, there's all kinds of cherry pickers and trucks with generators, and it's just nice to be part of that caravan.
While Walters was meeting new members of his shelter family, others were saying goodbye.
I got a little emotional putting some of my dogs in there, but it's really awesome.
The volunteers are taking 11 dogs and 5 cats north to Ohio.
We have a vet on staff, so she will get them all taken care of, and we've got a bunch of adoption events set up, so hopefully these guys will get out in new homes.
Walter says he wouldn't have it any other way.
They're helpless. We domesticated them. We owe it to them to look out for them. You just can't let them go or put them to sleep.
Grace King, WUFT News.
As we wrap up this special report, we note that WUFT TV programming will now join Rick Steves already in progress.
But you'll find continuing coverage of Hurricane Irma on WUFT-FM, plus our websites and social media. We'll leave you with this reminder of the tools you can reach with a cell phone as long as you have service. We'll be posting updates on Twitter and Facebook, and our Florida Storms app puts a live radar and interactive data at your fingertips. Good night and have a safe weekend.